Let them know what you're doing. Let them know what your goal is. A lot of times, and this might be an aside, but a lot of times we keep our dreams and goals to ourselves, and we're also expecting to be elevated at the same time. You cannot be a secret and a success. You have to pick one. So you can't be the world's best kept secret and expect people to say, oh, aren't you would be great for. People have to hear you. They need to see you. They need to know you. Welcome to the Femme Fit Entrepreneurs Podcast. We're your hosts, Aurelia Michael Holmgren and Britt Inez. Here we talk all things health, wealth, womanhood, and of course, ownership. So sit back or stand up straight on that treadmill and enjoy today's episode. What is up, everybody? I'm going to start this episode off a little unorthodox, okay? I just have to give myself my flowers because I have spent the last hour trying to perfect some things for this podcast, and I had to stop and say, you can only be where your feet are planted. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about getting it done. And if people are paying attention to the thing that you're paying attention to, then you are not doing your job. So here we are. What's up, y'all? My name is Aurelia Michael Holmgren, and I am one half of the Femme Fit Entrepreneurs Podcast hosts. I am a life coach, voiceover artist and coach. I am a performer for musical theater. I am an associate choreographer, and I'm your favorite Bronx bikini bodybuilder. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, we talk all things health, wealth, womanhood, and of course, ownership. Welcome to episode 3, where we are talking about 4 game-changing ways to master speaking in public. And I wanted to talk about this because I don't know if you know, but over 700 people per hour are Googling about how to get better at public speaking, how to be more confident, how to show up in a room in your authentic voice. And since this is something that I heavily stress with my life coaching and voiceover clients, I figured this would be a perfect way to give you some bite-sized tips that will make huge impact on how you show up day to day for yourself and for others. So let's jump right into it. So I've been speaking publicly since I probably could remember, but I have spent time over the last few years jotting down some of the things that I've done that people have recognized or that I've recognized that have been super helpful for me when I have to do a speech in front of hundreds of people, or I'm just talking with a one-on-one client, or when I went on my first date with my now husband. Like, what were the things that I was doing that came off believable, conversational, casual, and our favorite word of the last 2 years, authentic. And so now I'm at a point where you can just throw a topic or a question at me and I can kind of just run with it. But it wasn't always like that. It did take me a while to figure out, what was my point of view? What am I trying to say? How do I want to present myself to the world that is in alignment with how I feel about myself on the inside and how I show that on the outside? So let's jump into it. By the time you finish this episode, I want you to begin to walk the earth with what I call unconditional confidence. It's that thing that beats up imposter syndrome and steals this lunch money. It's the thing that you walk into a room with, no matter who's in the room, whether you're the smartest person in the room or you're the novice. Who you get right now is who you'll get if they see you somewhere else. So people know, if y'all listening to this right now, what you hear right now, you will hear if I'm on a job interview, you will hear if I'm doing voiceover, you will hear if you stop me in the middle of the gym on my set. I am who I am, who I am, who I am. And so that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to show up every day with unconditional confidence. But that takes some steps, right? We don't need to rush either, because then that can sometimes come off as overly confident or cocky, or sometimes when people go like, yeah, you know me, I'm just, all of this. We don't need all of that. If you can't see this, go ahead on YouTube. All of this. We don't need all of that. Unconditional confidence is quiet, but it says a lot. All right, let's jump into these 4 ways. I'm not going to keep you too long. The first one, when we're trying to get better at public speaking, we need to evaluate private speaking. How do you talk to yourself? How do you talk to yourself about yourself? How do you talk about yourself to others? Start to listen to how you have conversations, first with yourself and then with others. Are you constantly saying negative things about yourself? Are you constantly reminding yourself of the things you don't have, or the things you can't do, or you don't do, or you haven't done, or you wish you had? What are the kind of conversations that you are having? I'm such a procrastinator. I'm a perfectionist. Girl, you know I'm always late. We end up putting these disclaimers and these labels on us. And sometimes it's a way of being a defense mechanism, right? So as long as I get me first, you can't get me. I'm already going to tell you that I'm a perfectionist. I'm already going to tell you that I procrastinate and that I'm going to be late. As opposed to speaking next. Your assignment is to always speak next. I used to be a procrastinator, but now I'm working on being proactive. I used to be a perfectionist, but now I'm just worried about, actually, I'm not even worried. I'm excited about the process. The finished product will be what it's going to be. So release those labels, release your disclaimers. I know this is going to sound stupid, but I don't like when people do that to me because I'm like, first of all, let your scene partner say their lines. Let me say that again for the people in the front. Let your scene partners say their lines. This is not a monologue. If we're in a dialogue, don't already tell me how I should feel about what you're going to say. Because half the time when my clients say that or a friend says that, I don't think what they said is stupid. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think your dream is too big. I might say it's not big enough. Dream bigger. I'm going to push you. But not everybody's like that. People will take advantage and they're not going to treat you any better than you treat yourself. So, how do you treat yourself? You can't expect the person that you're wanting to date to treat you any better than you treat yourself. You set the standard, you set the temperature. You don't go towards what other people set for you. So, before we can get into how to be a better public speaker, how are you speaking in private? That's going to say a lot. All right. Number 2, you got to have something to say. You got to have an opinion. You have to organize your thoughts and you have to practice. So, although I have been public speaking probably 10 years or so, I don't know at this point, I still practice. I'm looking at these notes right now, but they're just bullet points. I make sure that I practice what I preach because then I am able to say how I'm feeling easily. I'm not stumbling over my words a lot. I'm learning to be an expert in the thing I want to talk about. So, for instance, if you are super interested in health and wellness, do your research, organize your thoughts. What's the part of health and wellness that excites you the most? And start to become an expert in that. Start to become a master, which is also a practice, right? It's not a place of arrival. So that whenever a question comes out about that, you have no problem speaking about it. So, what do you want to say? What is your opinion? A lot of people just fall in line. It's easier to follow the herd than to be the one to say, I see what you're saying, but I also think this. So I'm not saying what you're saying isn't true, but here's my truth as well. And that takes a level of courage and bravery to be able to say without hesitation, yes, but, as opposed to yes, and yes, but also, So it's not about being negative or trying to be um, not approachable. It's just about being true to what you believe. But first, you have to figure out what your beliefs are. So our second one is have something to say. 3, especially for my people that are interested in podcasting, that are interested in hosting events, create a mock event. This is my favorite thing to do. And I've done this before. Create an event, make your Canva flyer, hire your photographer and videographer for the BTS. Get your friend that does makeup and hair to come in and hook you up. Rent the space and put on an event as if this is the event that you plan to do in the future and possibly charge for. So even if it's virtual, go ahead and set up that Zoom account, not the free one. Go ahead and invest a few dollars for the month at least. Invite people to it. Let them know what you're doing. Let them know what your goal is. A lot of times, and this might be an aside, but a lot of times we keep our dreams and goals to ourselves, and we're also expecting to be elevated at the same time. You cannot be a secret and a success. You have to pick one. So you can't be the world's best kept secret and expect people to say, oh, aren't you would be great for. People have to hear you. They need to see you. They need to know you. And so, what better way than to create an event, stepping into the role as if it's already happening? You know, my mom used to say, so for those that don't know, when I decided to pursue Broadway, I moved forward, I say to New York, not back. I moved forward to my parents' house at 31 years old. And it would have been easy to fall into my old habits, hang out with my old friends, do my old stuff. But I got off that plane. That's a lie. I drove with my friend who became boyfriend, who's now husband. I wish I got off a plane. That'd have been cute. No, we drove cross country. And when I got out that car, I operated as if I was already on Broadway. So when people ask, what are you doing here? I'm in New York. What do you mean? I'm on Broadway. And they're like, what? What show? I'm like, I don't know yet. They're like, well, where's it going to be? I don't know yet. I'm just waiting for them to make the email. So I operated as if it was already happening. And then 8 months later, when people looked at my Instagram and said, wait, I thought you were already good. Because that's how I show up every day. A lot of times we're showing up every day waiting to make it. This is it. So if you want to speak on platforms and you want to be heard, start now and operate as if your Instagram live is that platform, are those thousands of people. And then once you create your event, create a survey, get feedback, let people in on your process, let them give you suggestions. That's how we get better. A lot of times we just want to put out this perfect product. That's how I felt about this podcast. That's part of why I haven't podcast before, because I was afraid that, well, what if they don't like this? And what if they don't like that? And I was what ifing myself. And it wasn't until Britt came along and was just like, why not? Let's do this. And I'm like, but we need this and we need that. She's like, no, we just need to get started. So the third thing is to create as if you are already doing that thing. And then those opportunities will come along because you're letting the universe know you're ready for it. And then last but not least, master nonverbal communication. Body language is everything. What does your body language say about you? Do I appear calm? Do I feel collected, confident? Or am I uncertain and awkward and fidgety and stiff? What does your ability to make eye contact look like? A lot of times I notice people are talking to me, but they're not making eye contact. Or if they're standing in front of me, they're holding something to protect themselves. Can you just stand in the mirror, hands down, not leaning into your hip, and just stand there and really look at yourself? See through you. And how comfortable do you feel? Start to recognize when you're out and about how your body language is. Do you find yourself crossing your arms a lot? I know a lot of my girls love to put their hand through their hair only for it to come right back down. Sometimes we have these nervous habits. How can you just be relaxed, open, and confident and make eye contact with people? That is the window to the soul. So get really comfortable as you're probably staring at me right now. And it looks like I'm staring at you. How does this feel? I feel super cool, calm, and collected, even though I can't see you, but I hope you feel the same. And what does your tone say about you? I've been in events where people will get up and say, hi, my name is Aurelia, and I'm so happy to be here. And then speak with some bass in your voice, some conviction, Speak like your voice is the most important voice to be heard in that moment. I had a client that once said, at work, I feel like my boss, she doesn't remember anything that I'm saying. And it's so easy to initially go, well, how rude of her. I can't believe X, Y, and Z. But my question was, well, are you walking into the room and saying anything worth being memorable? Where can I take responsibility? Are you being memorable? Then there's something that I can do about it. Maybe I'm not coming in as direct. Maybe I'm kind of fluffing my words and I'm beating around the bush and I'm like, maybe we'll see. I don't know. What does your tone say about you? Do you mean business or are you considering yourself a joke? Are you putting your foot? Are you standing on business or are you standing on, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Pay attention to the things that you do and don't do, depending on who you're around. How can we start to close the gap between where you are and where you envision? Does that mean you need to start recording yourself when you're in spaces? Does that mean you need to record yourself when you're having a conversation with a friend and say, what does my body do when I'm in conversation with someone I'm close to versus a total stranger? And how can I start to close that gap? All right, so let's do a little summary. 1, evaluate your inner thoughts and your private speaking. That, if this was a house, a public speaking house, that is the foundation. Don't start from the attic down. How you speak about yourself, to others, says everything about what comes out of your mouth publicly. 2, develop your voice, your area of expertise, and why do you want to say these things? Why are these things important to you? Deepen your why, deepen your purpose, and everything you say, people are going to want to lean in and be like, hey, say some more. I feel like I could listen to you all day. 3, create a mock event and grab feedback. Even if you don't want to speak in front of thousands, how do you speak in front of a group of 5 when you're the novice? You could still create an event, get feedback from it. Perfect way to start enhancing your voice and letting people know what's on your mind. And 4, master what your body says in addition to how your voice is saying it. Man, this was a blast. I appreciate you truly for listening or watching and seeing all my theatrics. If you haven't already, because I know some of y'all be driving when you're watching this or listening, take 2 seconds to like, comment, subscribe, and please share with your village. Please. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at the FFE, like Femme Fit Entrepreneurs, the FFE podcast email at gmail.com or slide in our DMs on Instagram at Femme Fit Entrepreneurs. You can find me on Instagram at Aurelia Michael, and you can find Britt at Britt Inez Ran on Instagram. Please let us know what other topics you want us to cover. We talk. There is no topic off limits. Send your questions, send your topics, send us what you're going through. And maybe from there, we can create a question for you. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.